What if the way we show up as leaders shapes who feels seen, heard, and included? So that's the kind of conversation we're going to have today. So, welcome to Voices of Impact, where we explore leadership beyond performance and into identity, responsibility, and meaningful impact. Today's conversation is about something that's shaping the future in real time: how leaders navigate representation, inclusion, and influence in a rapidly evolving world. So I'm excited to welcome Ricquel Harper. She's an alchemist of innovation and a fearless advocate for ethical AI with over 2 decades of experience across strategy, marketing, finance, and emerging tech, which is awesome. So from Fortune 500 boardrooms to global think tanks, she has advised organizations on building experiences that drive growth while centering people, culture, and community, which is so important in this day and age. So, as a fractional COO of She is AI, her work sits at the intersection of innovation and inclusion, ensuring that the future being built reflects the voices often left out of the room. So, what makes Raquel's work especially powerful is her ability to bridge that complexity with humanity and bringing both technical depth and lived awareness into how we lead, build, and create the impact. So, what makes this conversation like aligned is we both believe in a couple of things, right? So, representation really shapes the reality and your true people, and that leadership carries that responsibility, especially authentic leadership. Voices that we include actually influence the future we create. We think about legacy in the future. And then true innovation happens when diverse perspectives are created, right? So we need that diversity. And we're going to talk about how that looks like and how that feels like in this day and age. So in this episode, we're exploring what it truly means to lead with awareness, responsibility, and impact in today's world. So glad to have you on the show, Raquel.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful that you reached out to me for this opportunity. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yes, likewise, likewise. And I love what you're doing, love the work you're doing. So let's get into it and share with the audience. So tell us about the moment or series of experiences that made you decide to become a vocal advocate for like cultural representation and diversity.
Well, I didn't have a choice. I didn't choose advocacy. Let's just say that being born as a Black woman, advocacy chose me. And I just knew the rooms that I was in from an early age, being lots of times the only one in the room, that there was not going to be someone to speak up for me. And so I had to be that voice to speak up for myself. And that's what led me to that. And just to also be someone to say, well, I don't want others to have to go through that. And I always believe in helping others. So going through my own experiences and being a voice for myself and realizing that I had to speak up and advocate for myself when I was in that room, since it was just me most of the times, that then that's how I just naturally walked into that role. And I also I'm grateful to the family that I was born into. Such a privilege that I had so many role models who I stand on those shoulders to see the things that they accomplish, amazing accomplishments. So it's something I would say is definitely in my DNA.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. I think that's very inspiring. First of all, thank you for sharing that. And I know that it's hard that when you say that you were like forced into it and you didn't have a choice, right? We couldn't choose. I can kind of, feel that because being a woman of color as well, I didn't have a voice and I never spoke up. And this is something that I'm really passionate about and that I'm really, it's like really close to my heart, this kind of conversation, because that's why I created Voices of Impact, is really owning your voice and speaking up. This is something that I'm still learning and I'm actually owning it now. And I love how you owned it earlier on and learning from those role models because that's important. And I love how you shared that you were grateful for the role models. It is, right? And I was brought up in a place where we didn't have role models growing up, but the fact that you took it on from your family and you're here and sharing that with us and bringing that into the next generation of leaders, right, is very, very powerful. So thank you so much. And it's actually inspiring.
Thank you. I just want to touch on something that you just said, because another thing that really inspires me in my advocacy is realizing that a lot of people did not have that privilege of growing up in the type of family that I grew up in. And so I am a type of person, I'm like, well, speak up, speak up, speak up for yourself. But then as I grew, realizing that in some cultures, some countries, that women, people just, they did not have that luxury to do that. And that even inspired me more to also be a voice for those who may not have had a voice, still don't have a voice until they are able to grow into that voice.
Right. Absolutely. And I love that. And yeah, I mean, I feel like you're kind of like, I think that's what like motivates us. And that's why we're here having this conversation. I love that. And I know we see a lot of people, I'm part of it. I've talked to a lot of women who didn't have that. And even till now, I struggle to own my voice because even now people are like, don't say this, don't say that. Even now to start the podcast, why are you doing this? And I'm in a place where like I'm really owning it. I have something to say. I want to bring different people onto the podcast. I'm also sharing my story. Sometimes I struggle to share certain aspects of it, or I wasn't included. I didn't belong because I was a woman of color. Recently, I know I've been talking about I was fired for speaking up, right? And these are the things that I was like, but I only said the right thing. And I don't take it to heart anymore. I'm just like, I'm embracing who I am unapologetically, right? And I love how you're bringing these nuggets of wisdom into it, into these conversation and helping the next generation of women, right? So thank you so much for that. And going into the next question, like, was there a turning point, a mistake seen or made, like that clarified for you the importance of getting to know people before creating things, right? And I know that you shared that one time, but can you share that story and the lessons you drew from it?
Sure. Well, first of all, I don't see mistakes. I don't see anything as a mistake. I take it as a lesson. So that's how I like to frame it, that
Yeah.
anything that may happen, if it did not turn out the way that I may have wanted it to turn out. When my spiritual advisor has the term, it's a book, The Most Benevolent Outcome. I may not see it as the most benevolent outcome at that time, but then I realized as I've grown in life, or got, really stepped back and separated myself from the situation, and it's like, oh, that was the most benevolent outcome. But one thing, I share lots of stories, but one was a company that I was advising, and it was a social impact company, a social venture. And it was a group of men who had actually gone to a country, and they were teaching, and they noticed a situation where when the young girls got of a certain age, they stopped attending school, and they
Mm-hmm.
did not know what the reason was, but they thought it was like, oh, because they had to be at home and they have to do this. And the reasons they thought it was for, it wasn't the reason. And so they started to develop things for that. But then they learned it was because the women, the young girls, had gone through the cycle where they became women, and they had gotten their moon cycle, their menstrual cycle. And so then they're like, but they did not have the proper garments to be
Mm-hmm.
able to continue to school. So they said, oh, well, we're going to make the garments and have them available. Here we go. Men making things for fun. So they these garments, and but then it still wouldn't take off, because then it was like, well, how are they going to buy them? They put them in different stores, and the women would not buy them from there because they were owned by men, and there was a shame there with getting your feminine needs from a store by men. They could not have that understanding, that correlation, because it's not their lived experience. So as we're going through this, and I'm thinking, I said, well, did you really sit and talk? Did you go to the village? Did you meet with the people? Did you have conversations with them to connect? Oh no, we just like noticed it from that, and like, so you didn't connect with them, you just assumed that this was what they needed. And then I said, just from my experience of being a woman and going through that, of what it's like, they're like, you don't want like the men to know you're going through that stage. And then I said, what you need to do is you need to like go have conversations when you're building or creating anything for an end user, a client, or a customer. Have conversations with them
Right.
first because you don't understand their lived experience.
Yeah.
And like, but the other thing is, you as men cannot go have those conversations with them.
Yeah.
You need
Absolutely.
to like find someone to like go, and that's what they did. So it was a step back, and then when they got into the community, well, the female representatives from their organization who went to the community and sat and had these conversations, they gathered so much information that they needed that not only helped them as a company, but lifted this community. And it shifted the focus where they said, this is how we're going to, this is the framework we're going to use. And what it did is it then put earning power in the women's hands of the village, and that uplifted the village because they were putting their income back into the village. It helped with the educating of the children. So by doing that one thing, instead of just helping girls come to school, they transformed an entire village. But
Wow.
that was because they went and they connected with the village. And that's one thing that I really see. And it irks me that when organizations, people, if you're trying to build something or create something or do a business that's going to impact others, have the buy-in from the beginning of those individuals. Have them on your team. Have them in the decision room. Have like every step of the way.
Yeah.
That's what I've always learned. Because even with people will say, if we look at a person of color, oh, we'll just need a person of color. We're not monolithic either.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we have different, based on where we grew up, based on our family background, we're not monolithic. And people should not be treated like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow, this is great. And it's very interesting points because I can kind of relate to some things. There are two things. Number one is I love how you talked about, the whole like example. And that's a really like great example, an important one. Because my mom would say similar things. And they were like how like, about the whole like menstruation stuff. As soon as they hit that age, they weren't supposed to go to school. My mom would always say this, my family. And I guess when you said that, it was like it's very similar in other women of color communities as well. And I do agree that in any community, and right now I am building a community that's very similar to what you're saying. And the
Mhm.
first thing I'm doing is bringing the founding members in. I literally just got on some conversation. I was like, what do you need? Like, what are you looking for? And everyone was like, yeah, I don't like the hustle and grind. I like to I want this, I need that. And I love how you talked about this great example of really getting to know someone before building a community, because that's the whole point of a community, is really knowing your people and giving them what they need. That's the main thing. That's the main impact that you're making in the community. It's not about the numbers and the metrics and all of that. And when it comes to men, they don't know what it's like. I still have this conversation with my own family with the whole menstruation or anything with women.
Mhm.
Just don't understand. I just had this yesterday and I was like, literally, I said these words, like, right? Like, and they were like advising me with this, and we had the similar conversation, and it's just they don't understand it. And that's why there's a thing called sisterhood, right? We have a sisterhood. And that's the community I'm building right now. It's Sovereign Rise. And the conversations we're having, I'm literally asking, like, what is their perspective? What would you like to see in a community? And they all said the same thing, that hey, we don't want the hustle grind masculine stuff. We want this. We want to be more feminine. We want to understand, women understand each other. So, like, I love how you said that, yes, it's very, very important, whether you're building a product or community, and you really want to get to know your people. And the connection piece is the key here, which is missing in the day and age of AI, right? Okay, let me just put an AI thing out there, which, of course, it's nice to use that for the back end, but everyone forgets about culture.
Yes. Oh,
And
yeah.
these are the exact same words I just shared with someone on a conversation literally a few hours ago. And I was like, I'm building a community. And some people ask me, so is it going to be monetized? What's the plan, the structure? And I'm just like, I'm here to build a mission, to
Mhm.
bring in my sisterhood. And all I want is to build a culture of authentic leadership. And I was very focused on all culture and diverse voices, right? And I used to work with only, women of color because I felt so strongly for that. We didn't have that voice to speak up.
Right.
And this community I'm building is global. So I want to bring in diverse voices, diverse cultures, diverse perspectives. So it's very like in tandem what we were talking about. So I loved how you shared that example. You were transparent about everything. So thank you. And I think it's an amazing example that a lot of women are still going through in other places.
Oh,
And
yes.
yeah, in India still, right? We're
Right,
still,
right. I don't want to say that that's where.
yes. Yeah, so it's still like that, but that's why we're having this conversation to shift the narrative now
Exactly.
and, bring awareness. So this is amazing. I love this.
Hmm.
And going into, building the teams and building the culture. So how can leaders who are building communities like this balance the need for like speed and innovation, but also use like the slower, deeper work of truly understanding the communities they serve?
Oh, that's a good question. For me, I think some people I think there's this idea if you're trying to go to speed, you don't have the time to gather that understanding of a culture.
Mhm.
And that's not, that's not, that's not the case because you can be fast moving and all about speed and going completely in the wrong direction. And then in the long run, that's going to slow you down because you're going to have to backtrack and recover and make up for some mistakes that you made and things like that. So, speed without understanding creates this huge risk. So, what it is again, it's about having, now you can't do it together, it's about who you have in that room and what you're doing to who you're having in those brainstorm sessions, who you're bringing in at the initial starting point. When you have those people in the room, then and they're there to give you that clarity of path because that's the one number one thing you're going to need is that clarity in order to successfully innovate at speed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that clarity is connected to that understanding. So it's all about having that great connection of the people that are there who can provide you all the different perspectives for whatever your desired outcome or your desired user is. That buy-in needs to be there at the very, very beginning when you're having brainstorming sessions. So the idea may pop in a founder's head or someone's head. Then they say, hey, we want to do this. Okay, well, let's go get whoever we need that we think we want to sell this to. Let's bring them in the room and let's have a brainstorming session together so we can like have it all outlined, get that understanding, and then you can go off because they can like detect, oh, well, you messed up here, fix this. Okay, here. So you're doing it all in real time in a collaborative effort. And then it's not like you didn't waste all this time and got it first to market. And then you got up there and you made these big mistakes. And then you have to come back and fix it. And it may be a lot of risk of resources, and a loss of trust, your reputation. And you have to take the time to clean all that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. Yeah. And I know like a lot of these leaders, focus on metrics and numbers and speed. But yes, you can have speed, but you want to focus on, like, I love how you said clarity. So
Mhm.
getting super clear and being intentional, like speed with intention. So every conversation has to be intentional about, are you bringing in someone through a common goal, a common mission? And also another thing, when you are collaborating or you're bringing someone in a community, like focus on the mission, ask about the vision, ask about what their values are, and are they actually like, following those values, right? And that's what I look for when I bring in the founding members from my community that I'm building. I was literally like, do we have similar visions, and are we actually like walking our talk, right, as we build this? Like, are we actually, practicing what we preach when we say values? Like, if we value collaboration, is it showing it? Because it's one thing to kind of say it's something and then another action doesn't show. right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, we want to make sure, are these actually real leaders when we bring in a founding team or even part of the community too? And that is very important. And I was having this conversation before because I look at other leaders who are building similar communities, and they don't like kind of consider that, different identities, different cultures, like globally, right? It's just focused on one thing. And even nowadays, like, not just communities, even if I go to like the doctor's office, right? As women of color, our background is a little different from the other ones.
Mhm.
And how they treat us, it's like, for an example, even when I was young, like speaking of menstruation, like I come from one of color, I'm vegetarian, I don't eat that well.
Right.
But then when it comes to like, hey, run the mile, do this, do that, like they didn't even care to understand.
Yeah.
Or they just go with their thing that they know. And I was like, I didn't feel like you understood. I didn't feel heard or seen at all. Right. And I think at the end of the day, we want to look at the bigger picture, because sometimes as leaders, when we do build communities, we get lost in like the nitty gritty details. But I realize when we come together with the mission, the bigger picture, and of the goal that we want to just make someone feel seen and heard, and that impact, it makes a difference, right? So I love how you talked about that, and it's very, very important to be intentional more than the speed, right? Having that clarity of who we're targeting, who we're bringing in. So amazing.
Yes.
Love this.
Yes.
It's very important because I'm seeing communities where I'm just not feeling seen, and I think this is so important that I wanted to I love how you're really talking about this, because I want more people to hear this and build a community that's really real and understand like what would really make them happy. Because that's a question I was asking on these conversations one on one. Like, take the time, like 20 minutes, to really truly ask. Like, yeah, like I literally asked, like, what's a win? What would a win look like for you? What would you want in this community? Right? How would you want to feel? So these are things you want to ask. And it's not just like your typical questions, and go into it and deeply serve from the heart.
Right. Right. I really tell people, I was like, always ask before you assume, because I'm going to tell you, 9.5%, like 9.5 out of 10 of the times when people assume something about me, they are completely wrong.
Wrong.
Probably
Yes.
9.8. And people are like, oh, I didn't think it. Yeah, because you assumed that. You
Yes, absolutely. It's very important. And as women of color, even it's assumed, like, and I've gotten so many labels, and that's a totally different topic. And
right.
you know,
Everyone,
and I was like,
so
you're
many
absolutely
different personalities.
exactly. Yeah, don't assume it. I just, that is a pet peeve that I have. Like, please don't assume and ask. And even in some of these calls, some people just start giving like feedback and advice. And I was like, I appreciate it, but I think it'd be nice if you ask, can I give something, rather than assuming I need it? Because half the time I don't really want
Right.
unsolicited advice. But at the same time, I'm like, always ask, like, what do you need? What support? Is it okay if I give my feedback? Ask the questions first. And that's something that, comes over time, maybe in, I don't know about you, but in my family, we just are so easily, like, my parents just give advice and they just go on with it.
My family stopped with me at a very young
Yeah,
age.
maybe it's a cultural thing, and I'm just like, this morning, literally, this happened. I was like, oh, I think it's a cultural thing that I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to like, decondition, like uncondition these things. Like, okay, no, no, that's not how you're supposed to do it. So these
No.
things, building a culture is very, very important, because I wasn't brought up in that culture. And I'm half Indian. I was raised here. I was in a room full of white people, but my family is Indian, and it's a totally different tradition and values. And I embrace both, but at the same time, we want to see, like, we need to be intentional about what we're bringing into our life and our next generation of kids and the leaders, if we are leading a team, right? So we need to
Mhm.
be aware of that and what we're passing down. And I know that this is my next question of different identities. So I know when you're building a community, you're actually building a brand, right? So the brands, how would you say that brands can approach storytelling when there's like different shades, I would say, or like different identities, like layered identities, layered cultures, especially there's different types of like, there's a more diversity, right? So how would you approach, or how would you have like recommend brands to approach a storytelling piece?
Don't tell someone's story for them. Allow them to tell their story.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the don't tell someone's don't tell someone's story for them. If you're, I would say, the most truly impactful brands, and when you, okay, let's, if you look at commercials, if you look at those where they will have, it may be like ads or things like where they will have just a variety of people come on and then just share those their stories instead of saying there's this girl who grew up in Chicago and she did this, and it's coming from you. Just have them come on and say it just in their own words. And one of the things that I can use as an example, my family is, we dealt with a lot of addiction in our family, as successful as my family is, but I dealt with addiction in my family and actually lost a dear aunt. So to see the story of, like, some people look at addiction and they think, oh, it's, low income, homeless. But my aunt was graduated Harvard summa cum laude, top attorney, but things happen. So we were part of this organization called Above and Beyond, and they do addiction recovery services for homeless people on the west side of Chicago. And we got involved because it's a family friend, but that, going through that for decades and decades, seeing how services were different for those who have means versus those who don't have means on different levels, it taught me a lot. And so then we had these annual galas, and it first started out where people would come, they would raise their paddle, give thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, but it really shifted when we had the clients come and share their stories, and to see the impact of the range. And you see people in the room who came from not knowing their parents, homeless, having that same journey and story of dealing with addiction, with families who are multimillionaires and had the same thing. But to see everyone share their different story of how it was their personal impactful journey, or dealing with it as a parent or a child, and having them, it was such a moving, and has been the most moving connection that we have made with people. Is about allowing people to share their story, and to see how that has grown the center. And it celebrated its 10th anniversary last year. But it all started as a vision of, we want to help people who go through this and don't have the resources to get the treatment. How can we do it free of charge and things like that? And now to see what it has grown into.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very powerful point, right? And I love how you talked about, because I know some people just say storytelling and it's about me, but that's what brands are all about these days. And when you're building a true brand, a true community, it's all about them. It's all about your audience. It's about the people in the community and sharing their story. And it comes from a place of just really unconditionally serving. And it can't, it's something that you have to experience within. It's not from a place of like scarcity. I have an end goal for this community. Like you said, it's really to make that impact and to see that, hey, like someone went through this
Yeah.
and you can go through the same thing. And similar to why I started Voices of Impact, is that's why I bring in so many diverse voices and like, hey, share your story. How did you go from here to here, and being a successful, powerful woman in your own words, right? And that's so important, and having the spotlight on them, right? And when it comes from what, like you said, from someone's own words, you kind of feel it. And there's like this, like, oh my God, I also was in that person's shoes. Everyone who listened to these episodes or anything, right? Even when I listened to another person's podcast, it really resonated when they shared a story about, hey, I'm a woman of color. This is what I went through. Or, hey, like one person was saying like that, as a 50 plus, the menopause, like these are real raw, because these days it's like like kind of like fake, and it's just very performative. Like I did the same thing, but showing the real raw stories and the vulnerable stories is so powerful.
And I just wanted to add something to that, that what we witness when you do that, it gives other people a space to open up. People who originally may have shame, because that's what we realized. It especially took away from the performative of, that's not us. We're here to help them. So we're going to give them money, and not realize that a lot of us are giving the money because we have that shame, we have that guilt of dealing with it, but we're not going to tell that story. But then when someone who is like, hey, my family had the education, my family had the resources, and we still went through that, that opened up space for like, you know what? Yeah, my family did that too. I looked completely successful on paper, but our family went through this. And it just so it opened up that pathway for more people to not only have that space to share their story, but then to also say they may have dealt with it personally. So it takes away the shame for people because they see that, hey, there's a space for me to share this and not be judged. And I can
Yeah.
let go of that shame. I can let go of that guilt, which is toxic to your body, that causes illness. Release that stuff.
Absolutely. And I love how, like, yeah, and we can tend to assume, right? Like, oh, underprivileged, this person, they go with addiction, but it can happen in any
It
family. It's
happens.
very normal. And yeah,
Absolutely.
and we have this like judging by its cover, we judge a book by its cover. And in reality, like everyone's going through similar things and no one really talks about it. We look at the outside and the external and social media, but
Mhm.
it could be, yeah. And I even say this a lot of times on my content. Like, you could be perfect on paper, successful, and have all the titles. People think like, oh, they're best, they're amazing. How did they do this? And we tend to compare. But in reality, like they're also human. They're also going through similar things, right? And yeah,
People don't know your battles, and people just think we're like, you graduated this, you graduated that, you had this. And I'm like, I managed deep depression for 20 years. And it was, but no one could even tell because they're like, you accomplished everything and above and beyond and do that. But I did that because that was my outlet.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm like broken inside.
yeah. Yeah. And that's why that's, I think you're a perfect guest for the Voices of Impact, because that's what the mission is behind Voices of Impact, is literally voices and stories that felt like I feel shame to bring, or I feel shame to post this or talk about this. And, if I say something, what would people say, or what would people think? And that's this whole point of Voices of Impact, is to share it and not be judged, right? This is a space. And I loved how you said to open up, right? I want more women. And I love how you're like a role model for that, because, we as women of color are having these things, right? Challenges of talking about it. And to your point, and I love, thank you so much for being vulnerable right now and sharing your story. And, a lot of people say that even to me, like, you seem perfect, you're happy, you come on. And I'm like, no, I struggle a lot. I actually struggled a lot with trauma.
Mhm.
And, and I'm in my healing journey, right? It's past 10, 15 years. And yeah, I might have talked to him. I might look like I'm happy right now, but
Mhm.
I want to help others. I'm deeply serving. But, internally, we all have our issues and we're all in this together.
And that's what we were taught to do. We
Yes.
were taught that we can't, like, that never let them see you cry, never let them see you sweat. That's like a sign of weakness. And especially when we're the only ones in the room.
Yeah. And especially the strongest woman,
Yes.
right? And for me, a lot of times, like my partner, everyone would ask, like, you seem mysterious. Like, you seem everything's going so well. And it's hard, right? It's hard to
Mhm.
kind of put your walls down and share. And like you said, it's hard being vulnerable, because I had to always be the strongest person and go through and be like the pillar of support for other people. And no
Mhm.
one was ever there for me. I didn't have anyone that listened to my struggles and was there for me in the hardest times. And if I'm
Mhm.
the pillar of support and people think I'm just like happy and being nice, like, how does she get everything so well? She's always like, dressed well and everything. And
Yes.
I'm like, I've healed, I know how to deal with it. But at the same time, there are times when I'm sometimes I cry in my room and sometimes I'm sad. And, everyone goes through this and we're all here. And that's why we share these stories. And even now, a lot of people probably don't know it when I'm sharing these things. And that's why it's really important to like share it in a space that, of course, be intentional about where you share it. But that's what Voices of Impact is. And, Raquel, like, thank you for inspiring and sharing your story and creating that space for
Well,
others.
I thank you. I'm grateful for you creating this platform. It's always great for, I say, people overall to have a platform where you can feel that you're seen and you're heard, but especially for the voices that are normally underrepresented, marginalized, and often aren't heard and maybe silenced.
Mhm.
So I'm grateful for you to just making space and having this platform to do that.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And this is very important to me because I've never felt that belonging or felt seen and heard in any spaces. And I was like, I've been through this and I don't want other people to struggle, and that's why I just started this podcast to see how it would help others. Like, just one person, even if they get on guest, it would impact. And it's now into 40 episodes, and many people have resonated. And they're like, thank you for sharing this episode. I resonated. And even the guests who've come on here before, they were like, literally telling me, like, I've never talked about my story. I have menopause. I have this. I've struggled. And I think there was an episode before, she was like, it's hard. I went through, like, she's like a trauma informed coach and she's been through a lot in her life. And
Mhm.
grieving, she's like, I never shared it. This is my first time. I'm nervous. And she was very happy that she shared and she got the chance to do it. And she's like, even if one person hears this, that's good enough for me to make an impact,
That
right? And
is,
that makes
it
me,
is that one person. You'd be shocked how your story can touch just one person.
yeah.
Once,
And that's
one life.
that's the point of this, right? It's really just to be like, hey, you're not alone. And
Mhm.
when I listened to a lot of podcasts, and when I listened to it, I was like, am I the only person's going through it? And when I listen to people's stories, it touches me, right? Like, I was like, you also go through the same thing? Like, I didn't know that, right? And it's not just a woman of color. Even I've heard of other people across the other side of the country, and they're like, yeah, like, I know I'm going through this too. Like, and it's really nice because it just feels like we kind of belong. It's a feeling of being seen and heard. And that was the purpose of this. So I love this conversation. It's very close to my heart. And for every woman of color listening, because I've had so many women of color who struggle with this a lot. And I hope that whoever you are, woman of color or not, like, that you will feel seen and heard in this space and with me and Raquel, and we're all here to support each other. So this conversation has been great. And going into your work, so what role does co creation play in your work? And how do you set up collaborations so they're equitable, like, and lead to meaningful outcomes, right? And that culture representation.
I think I touched on that as far as making sure that you have buy-in from
Yeah.
the for whoever that you're creating for. And I would say one thing, for instance, with SheIsAI, we just did a workshop for an artistic school in Uganda. And for me, a lot of people, especially with AI, people are always saying, well, this is what they need. Don't tell
Mm,
them what they need. Don't
yeah.
tell them. Do you want people to tell you what you need? Oh, it's what we did is we sat with them. It's what do you want to know? Like, having that, like I said, that initial conversation to listen to them and then craft. And what we did is we crafted the workshop around their needs. And
Right.
from that, it just like, wow,
Yeah.
crafting things from the needs of people, listen to people. So it's always been for me about listening to people. What do they need? Because the other thing to me, that builds trust. And when you have that trust and that relationship and partnership, that's going to extend. And people trust you when they know that they're being heard
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
that you're trying to understand them. You may not truly understand because you did not go through. It's not your lived experience, but the mere fact that you take the time to sit and just listen, people want to be heard.
Mhm.
And then they will talk and they'll talk and learn more and learn more and learn more. And that's why I like to travel all around the
Yeah.
world and just like, oh, let me go off the beaten path and get in community and just like hang out and be with people and everything. And that's where I do all my learning. That's how I learn. And that's what I bring to my professional life. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
Who is this for? Okay, well, have you spoken to these people? Do you know like what their life is like? Have you gone there? So that's the important thing about business collaboration, successful business collaboration.
Absolutely. I love this. And yes, because nowadays everything is like transactional.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's about me, and one-sided. And when, especially with collaborations,
That's the masculine side. We need to bring
yes,
the divine feminine into
exactly.
it. So you need like that's the masculine. You need to like have them collectively collaborating together. The divine masculine and the divine feminine, and woo, that's where you take it.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of people are still new to the divine feminine. So, for example, I've talked to a couple of people and entrepreneurs these in the past couple of days, and I was like, "Hey, let's co-create this episode." Even Voices of Impact, it's more of like, "Hey, can I just come in?" and then they just leave. And I had to say no to a couple of people just because they weren't interested in collaborating or anything. It was in co-creation. They wouldn't open up. And I was like, okay, well, what is co creation? I literally asked this question before even getting on calls. Like, what does co-creation mean to you? What does a meaningful collaboration mean to you? Like what do you envision for this? Right. And even when I'm building a community, I'm literally how is it aligned to your vision? What are you looking for? And not just their needs, but how do you want to feel? And
Mhm.
I want them to say it in their words. I was like, and they literally said, they're like, what do you think I need, Vina? Like, they're asking me. And I was like, I want to hear it from you, right? I want to ask you. I put it on them. And they were like, oh my God, they weren't used to it, right? And I was like, oh wow. And they were like, I felt really seen. Like, you really want me to do well in this space. And those are, in order, like you talk to a feminine energy, and the only thing is for leaders, though, we need to lead from that feminine energy first. If we're not leading from that feminine energy first, the collaboration will not be successful. And I realized that we would always come in from like that scarcity mindset. Like, I need something from this
I
person,
need
right?
exactly.
And that's like something that I had to work on, and many women probably had to work on, right?
Not
So
only
we're
women,
not,
a lot, everyone needs to, because men come into that scarcity. That's where the toxic
yeah,
masculinity comes in because that's connected
exactly.
to the scarcity mindset.
Yes. And I see a lot of people still doing that, especially women, is like, even now, when I asked them these things, that I was like, and they were like, I don't like being sold to. I don't like the whole masculine, like bright content, the same things. I was like, I just want to be. I just want to be more of myself and belong.
Yeah,
And that's how I was like, wow, like, okay, let's build a community around that. Like, I was like, let me know if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel overwhelmed. I don't want you to feel this way. So, really getting to know them first, like you said, and ask them the right questions. Really, you have to be in your feminine energy as a leader first. And if you're not taking care of yourself first and you don't know what the meaning of collaboration is, you can't serve the others, right? And many people are not in that season yet. They're like, I want to, and I realize after having conversations they're just not. And it's very fine, right? It's very normal to not be in that season. Embracing, and also one thing I want to touch on is for women of color, I've been in places where it was a lot of, we're used to competition rather than collaboration.
yes,
We're not used to
yeah,
it.
that's the toxic masculine part
Yeah.
because everyone's just, well, it's because we're women. I think, oh, we're only feminine. No, male, female, like that's the gender. The feminine, the masculine, we all have it. Men have it,
Yeah.
women have it. It's just like the levels. And when what you want is that balance
Right.
because that's when you're balanced.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a healthy feminine. I come from like woman of color. I don't know about yours, but for me, it was very wounded feminine, right? So all the women in my community, it was like competition. And I struggled to find a sisterhood. I was always in my healthy, I always liked to collaborate. And I always had the ego checked out the door. And everyone I talked to was like, Ovina thinks she's better than me. And there's always this like competition or the ego and like the wounded feminine. So a lot of them were not used to this. They're like, what is collaboration, Vina? Like they didn't understand, they didn't feel it, they don't even know how it feels. So there was that like hesitation in the beginning, but I think that's why I want to bring in a community and I want this conversation to like land for people that healthy collaboration is really nice, right? You want to find that sisterhood, and that's what you call the divine feminine. When you have a balance, the divine masculine, divine feminine, when you've healed it, you know, you can really bring in that collaborative efforts and it's real, right? And every woman, they want to lift each other up. We're rising together,
Mhm.
and it's actually beautiful, right? So but that's why some people just hesitate these days. They're like, and like you said, it's building the trust factor because
Mhm.
trust is low, because every nowadays there's a lot of wounded people and they're just like, I want to make sure this is a safe space first. Do I truly feel
Right.
safe? I don't know what it feels like. Even for me, sometimes I didn't know what it felt like to be in a healthy environment. I wasn't used to it. I came from very toxic you know, backgrounds and stuff. And I didn't know what it felt like, honestly speaking. And that's why I'm very like, this is close to my heart. And I want someone to feel safe in my presence or in my community, that they are like, yeah, you know what? This is very different than the other communities I've been in. And that's very important. So it's like having this conversation is very key. So thank you so much for sharing that. Um,
I can get that because, like I said, I'm so grateful for the family that I was birthed into and that I was raised in on both sides, my mother's side and my dad's side, because there is that like that collaboration that was taught and that uplifting where it was taught. And then when I got out into the world, I'm like the rose colored glasses girl where it's like, oh, everyone grew up and it was like this and it was so nice. And then it was like, boom, the world like knocked me on my ass. It wasn't like that. And I like joined different women's group and like sorority. It was like, oh, because I'm an only child as well. You know, I have like tons of cousins and things. I'm an only child. But I came out of that and it was just such a loving family, such a loving village of like and I think I told you a story of even our family friends. It's like the village of like all of that. And then it's like when I got out into the world and I'm seeing other, like just other things and joining a sorority, joining this women's group. And it was just like a bunch of toxicity where I'm like, where did this come from? Where did this come from? And for a while, so when people are like, come join this community of women, I'm like, no. I'm like, I stopped being active in a sorority. I stopped it. No, I'm
yeah.
not doing any of that because no, until you all get it. I'm an only child. I'm fine by myself. Unless you're going to go over here with like some people who have healed and are on the other half, where because we all still go through healing, but are not on the beginning pathway to their healing journey. On the other side, then yes,
Yeah.
that's my tribe that I can vibe with.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so glad that you're from a family like that. I mean, that's really, really nice, right? And I think it's a privilege. And at the same time, I love how you were intentional. You were like, no, like, and I love what you said with the healing, because that's exactly where I am when I bring people into my inner world, even having normal conversations. Like, I'm not in the beginning stages of my healing, and I feel sorry for like I'm sorry, meaning I've been there, so I want to help you, but at the same time, I'm intentional. Like I'm in the later stages, and if there's still some healing. Like, of course, I can help you from afar, but when it comes to building a community, we need to bring people who are in that healing journey, right? Who've done the inner work. And it's very important to be intentional. I love how you're being intentional because reality is different, right? And it's chaotic now, and we have to be. That's the truth. We have to be real about it. That there is a lot of chaos. People don't think like us. People are not as healed as we think. And
Mhm.
we just are from that, right? And we've done that where we worked hard and we need to be more intentional about who we bring. And if you
Exactly.
are building a community, bring someone that's like you, who's asked the questions, like you said, ask like in a way that, get to know where they are in their
Mhm.
seasonal growth,
Mhm.
right? How much have they put into their inner growth, not just professionally, but I really ask questions about, their stories, how they've turned their pain into purpose, or, pain into power.
Exactly.
How did this help you grow? What are the lessons you learned? How long have you been in your personal growth journey? And I forgot to do that when I, like, earlier in my career coaching days. And I just was like, okay, well, I want to help women of color. And I realized there are, some wounded, women out there. And there's nothing wrong, because I was like, I could relate. It was familiar to me, right? And I wanted to help them. But then I realized the more I evolved, I need to be in communities where it's like in that same stage of healing and seasons, right? So, and
Right.
I love that. And it's very important to be intentional. I love how you said no, because no, you don't want to go back to that version, right?
Right.
And
The other important thing with that is that it is because naturally it's okay, I want to help. I have to help. But it wasn't I want, it was like I had to help. Like
yeah,
I have it, but that was also a conditioning of from my family. It's like you have these opportunities, others didn't have these opportunities, so you have to help. And I had to check and see that that was my guilt and my shame coming in still. So that was like a trigger of those are things that I still need to work on when I was in that place of let me jump in and help and save this
right.
person. Where
Yeah,
it's, and I tell people that because my friends knew they could call me and I was there. I was there, I was helping, but then it was like, what is that saying about me? Because so many people shamed me of how I grew up and what I had. And I found that that was my way to like apologize to them for that. Why am I apologizing for that? And it's so when we get to the space of learning that we don't always have to jump in and help. We can hold space for people.
exactly.
But when we are jumping into help, that's still a part of our unhealed self that we're trying to nurture. That's something that we're still trying to heal and love in our own self.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty sure everyone can resonate. I can resonate. I was like always that person who would always overgive. And I would say like maybe like, yeah, I not only was holding space, but I was like fixing and mothering, because I just felt so bad. Like I was a very empathetic, and I still recently did that. And I was like, wait, what am I doing? Like the
Mhm.
more I heal, I was like, this is saying something about me, right? That's
Yeah.
like an unhealed part. And I had to do my journaling. I'm like, why am I doing this? And I was like feeling so in my body, like I was just so tired. I took on everyone else's like emotions, and I was like, why am I like this? And I had to heal that part of me. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm holding space, I'm here for you, but I'm setting my boundaries,
Mhm.
right? And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's something that I need to honor for myself. If you respect it, cool. If not, I understand. Maybe it's not aligned anymore. We've outgrown this relationship or friendship. And yeah, I've outgrown many of those things, and I still pray for them from afar, right? And that, they should heal soon. But at the same time, I have my boundaries set now, and I'm like, I need to choose myself, and I need to be intentional with, because I'm in a different, I'm evolving and I'm growing. And I think that's an important thing, that when you're growing and that person is still like at a different stage, like they're not going to come with you all the time.
And that's the thing. It's the mountain. You can't take everyone to the top of the mountain for you, but I have love for people. It's like, I wish you luck. I wish you luck. And people wonder, one of my strongest boundaries that I set is my phone is on do not disturb. It goes on do not disturb at 9 p.m. and it does not come off do not disturb until 10 a.m. And
Amazing.
people, because sometimes you can call a phone, it'll go to voicemail, but if you call right back, it'll ring. No, mine is strictly doing. And people are like, well, I tried to call it. You called in my do not disturb. Well, it's 10 a.m. My mornings are mine for my journaling, my meditation, my work. That's my time. That's my time. There are only 5 people that are in that where it can come through in those times. And that's my mother, which is not because she lives with me. So and like my 2 aunts and my uncle, 5 people where it will come. And I know because they're only calling me at that time because of this emergency.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to set that boundary. And it's okay. You can be empathetic, but you can also set the boundary. And it's because sometimes as women, we tend to be a little too feminine energy. And I love how you talked about the balance because that's an issue that I had. I was just a very giver. And I was like, okay, I'll just take on everyone's. And, okay, well, I'll be there for you all the time and, always being available. And I was like, that is something I need to work on,
Yeah.
and have that balance and really set the boundary. And it's okay if you say no, put your phone on do not disturb. Literally, like I don't answer sometimes. I don't need to apologize for it. I don't need to
Yeah.
explain, don't or explain it. Right? Like you need time for yourself and someone will the right people understand that, right? They will honor it, they will respect it.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, a healed person will understand it and you
Understand.
need to know you need to be aware of your triggers and what's showing up, right? And even the community you're building, going back to that, when you bring in your members, are they similar to you in that stage?
Mm-hmm.
If they're not, like see maybe how you could help them from afar or be very intentional about these things. So amazing conversation. And what's next for you, Raquel? Like any, new initiatives, new programs going on?
Well, for me, I'm always working on a lot of stuff. It's really about AI and bringing what we're doing, that voice, especially for Black and Brown women to be in the rooms, building it so it's inclusive of us. So that's where I'm focusing my attention and
Wait.
my passion now through different communities, specifically She is AI and other initiatives.
Amazing. I love that for you. And yes, AI is important. I still use for my back end. And I also actually told a career coaching client, I helped her, and she was like, I'm the AI space. And there's like a community called Women Defining AI or something. And
Mm-hmm.
she loves it. And they're like, we all belong. And she loves the culture, especially in the tech world. This is what I heard from people in the tech world. It's hard to find that culture with authentic leadership. And there are some groups out there, they have both. Like you can passionate about tech and AI and have that cultural representation. So I love how that you're actually, getting into that space, right? So,
And I
and
understand that part because for years I was in finance, investment banking, culture. So it was like hard. And then now being in AI and tech, yeah, hey, just went from one to the other.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
I'm still going to carve out the space. I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm here. And
absolutely.
I'm not going anywhere. And I'm bringing my whole tribe.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that. This is a great conversation. I would love to go into a quick, fun, rapid fire
Sure.
round. Okay, so quick answers. Let's see. A space where you feel most like yourself.
Dancing on the dance floor. I
Amazing.
was a
Yes.
dancer.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that. I'm like, what?
at the age of 2 and point and all. I will dance. I will dance and you turn on me. I love music. Music and dancing should be love languages. I've actually stopped dating people because they didn't know how to dance.
Yeah.
But I love to dance. Dancing can get like music can come on in a store and I will dance. I could even dance when you're in like Neiman Marcus and they're playing the songs that I will dance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you know.
you're like me. I'm exactly the
Yeah,
same.
I'm
Dancing and music
dancing.
is my
Which
thing.
is funny. I was in the grocery store last week and I'm dancing and I'm like going and I'm in the produce section and I'm dancing full on out. And the lady comes up to me behind. She's like, I just love the way you're dancing around the store. So,
I love that. You're just like chilling and everything. I'm like,
yes, yes.
yeah, Also, I love that. I love the positive vibes that you
Right,
have.
right, right.
Even like the whole dating thing, like I'm always about music as well. And if like we're not vibing on music, I'm like, it gives me the ick,
No,
right? Like, I'm just like,
I'm
that's the main thing.
right.
Yeah,
I'm Afro Latina, so my family Cuban, Brazilian. I'm dancing and
great.
music. So
Amazing. I love that. That's amazing. Awesome. So okay, a guilty pleasure you fully enjoy and you're actually owning it now.
oh, a guilty. Okay, people know that I don't watch a lot of television, but
Mhm.
there are some shows that I watch, and one now because I loved The Handmaid's Tale, and now I'm into The Testament. So my
Oh,
guilty pleasure is, but I don't watch the shows when they're like coming on. I
yeah.
literally like to binge watch
Binge
shows.
watch.
So because since I don't watch television, but people are like, oh well, give us a show. So I have to call my friends and like, what's a show? They know not to tell me any of those reality shows because I'm not watching that. Goes so binge watch Queen of the South, Game of Thrones, Orange is the New Black, Handmaid's Tale, Bridgerton. So I like to binge watch Shondaland. That's my girl. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, to binge watch shows and things like
Yeah. No, I love that. I love how you're embracing that because everyone's
that.
like, oh my God, I'm binge watching. Yeah, I'm not a television person either until recently. So very similar. I just watch movies and they're more like Bollywood. I used to never watch those. Even like the shows like Game of Thrones, I think everyone's binge watching that. But yeah, own it, right? Own
Yeah,
it. And
yeah. So
you
that
deserve it.
I'll binge watch it. The show, what is it? The Boys. I binge watch that because I'm like, what's
Yeah.
something so I love to binge Paradise.
Paradise. Yes.
Paradise, Three Little Women,
Yeah.
Cross. So there, I like to binge watch shows, and I'll binge watch them on a vacation.
Yeah.
So
Yes. And you deserve it, right? Like, why not? Why not? So
that's
enjoy
my
it.
guilty. That's my guilty pleasure. I'm not
I
a
love
sweets person or anything. I'll binge watch shows.
it. I love this. And I love that you're just like unapologetically yourself, So amazing. And one more. So something people wouldn't expect about you.
Oh gosh, people wouldn't expect about me.
Can you say that again? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I didn't say what would people expect about me? One of the things that I don't have any fear. The only thing that scares me, like I'm terrified of clowns. And people wouldn't expect that because I swim with a shark, I hold snakes, I jump in the middle of the ocean, I'll like walk with lions and do like I pick up spiders, like all
Yeah.
of that stuff. But a clown, no.
Wow.
I like people are like to this like day, no.
Wow. That's interesting. Yeah, because honestly, like when I was a kid, like the Chuck E. Cheese, like they would dress up as
No.
Chucky and like I was so scared of that, but I would do other things, so I can kind of relate to that.
No.
I don't know what it is about clowns. Like it was
I
very
had
weird.
a, I had a I was turning 5. And I never forget because my grandfather had just passed away. I was so close to him, and because we used to do we would have our little tea party dates at the Drake Hotel in the Ritz Carlton.
Mhm.
And so he passed away, and it was like right on my birthday, around my birthday when I was turning 5. So my grandmother planned my birthday, and she was like, to make her happy, I'm gonna do all the things that a child would like. And so she hired a clown, and the clown came, and I punched the clown in the face when it got. And I ran and jumped in my dad's lap, and my dad was like, "She does not like."
No, the mess.
I was like, my little 5-year-old and like punched him right in the right.
I'm pretty sure he was like, "Yeah, no, no more."
But all the other kids, they are fine. That was probably where I didn't eat the cake. My grandmother never planned it. She got the cake that had like all the things that like kids like, but I didn't like cake because I don't like sweets. I didn't, but everyone else eats cake. I was like, kids, I can't have a cake. Oh, yeah. But
Yeah.
so that's it. I punched the clown in the face, so I don't like
No, no. Oh, this is so funny. I love you. You're amazing. I love your sense of humor. So amazing. Wow. Wow. It's so nice to get to know you, right? And
it.
that's what these are. The rapid fire. Thank you so much for sharing this. And no, Raquel, I think this was such a powerful and necessary conversation. And you're inspiring a lot of women right now, including me. So I love how you bring both the clarity and the depth to what it really means to lead responsibly, and especially in a world where decisions we make not just like shape the outcomes, but like people's experiences and opportunities. So, and for everyone listening, this is a reminder that leadership isn't neutral, right? It's how you show up that shapes people and the culture and who feels seen, heard, and valued. So if this conversation resonated, please, connect with Raquel. She's awesome in every way. And, share it with someone who's thinking deeply about leadership and impact. And if you feel called to step into a more aligned, a real community that we've been talking about, that's what Sovereign Rise is all about. It's a space where, leaders, we all collaborate. And these are divine feminines who come together, the change makers to build and lead and rise, right? Into becoming an unapologetic woman and expand in a way that's both powerful and human. If you feel called, whether as a community builder or a speaker, or you just want to just feel seen and belong, right? This is your space, right? So we'd love to connect. And thank you so much for your presence again, Raquel. Until next time, lead with awareness, lead with intention, and keep creating impact that truly matters.
Thank you.